Hi everyone, my friends, industry peers, colleagues. This is my second video on about my test with resin-backed 4mm thick Dekton panels. In my first video, I was talking about how this particular issue of resin backing is explained and addressed in the technical literature, particularly in the TCNA Handbook, Dimension Stone Design Manual, and NTCA Reference Manual. It's been 7 days now. 7 days ago, I installed these sample pieces over Weddy board using different mortars, mostly Ardex, plus Multimax Slide from Leticrete and Bostiset from Bostik. I installed mostly two kinds of sample pieces. Half of them was with just exposed resin backing, and half of them were treated with a single component primer Ardex P4 that is designed or made by Ardex for non-absorbent surfaces. It is important to point out that at this point so far, Ardex P4 is not specifically recommended by Ardex to install resin-backed large panels or resin-backed tiles in general. At the same time, from my own testing, including the test that I performed a year ago with resin-backed Crema Marfil natural stone, I know that this particular primer promotes a really good bond from cementitious mortars to resin-backed tiles. So I already removed the pieces and I want to show you the results. My expectations were that most or all cementitious mortars that I would install directly to resin backing would not produce proper bond. I was surprised that two of the cementitious mortars still showed great adhesion to the resin backing on Dekton Slim 4mm thick panels. And I want to start with my first sample that I removed first, and it was Ardex S28. It was adhered directly to resin backing, and after 7 days it shows such a great bond to this resin backing. As you can see, the top coat of Weddy panel came off with this sample piece. At the same time, Ardex S48 showed this. Ardex X90 came off almost clean. Ardex X78 came off almost entirely clean. And Ardex X32 came off clean. All the mortars stayed on the Weddy board, on the Weddy panel. It is important to remind you that most of these mortars are not recommended by Ardex to work with resin, large thin panels in general. So in this test, we're not talking about poor adhesion of Ardex mortars. All that we see is an evidence that actually what's written in the technical data sheets of all these mortars, and it's written by the manufacturer, is true. It is important to remind you so that you, as a professional tile and stone installer, mechanic, you have to know that almost every technical data sheet of any mortar that we use here in North America has something like this in the limitations or cautions section in the technical data sheet. Do not use with resin-backed tile. That is exactly what is stated in the Tessine Handbook, Dimension Stone Design Manual by Natural Stone Institute, or National Tile Contractors Association NTCA Reference Manual. Cementitious mortars are not designed to be adhered directly to resin backing. Cosentino, that manufactures this product, Dekton, recommends using Ardex X77 mortar with Ardex E90 additive. And this is the result. Sorry, this was primed version, this is unprimed. Well, as you can see, after 7 days, it showed very strong bond, very good adhesion to the back of this resin backing. And so pretty much we can see that, you know, whatever the manufacturer of Dekton recommends is true, and it provides great bond. Now, I was also surprised that Letticrete Multimax Light, applied directly to resin backing, also showed very great adhesion with or to resin backing. So these two mortars, Ardex S28 and Multimax Light, have something in them that, you know, produces very strong adhesion and bond even to resin backing. But at the same time, we have to know that neither Ardex nor Letticrete company recommends these two mortars to be applied directly to resin backing. So it is important for us to follow manufacturers' recommendations to stay under their warranty. Also, I used Bostiset by Bostik. This particular mortar is recommended by Bostik for resin-backed panels as well. And as you can see, the bond is superior. This is a flexible mortar. It has great deformability characteristics and perfect bond. I'm very impressed by how good this mortar is. At the same time, in my test, as I said before, I wanted to test the adhesion of all the samples treated with Ardex P4. And exactly like my expectations were, all pieces treated with P4 showed great bond and adhesion. This was S28 with P4, X78 with P4. Compare these two. This is X78 with no P4, and this is X78 with P4. X32 with no P4, X32 with P4. X5, I was kind of surprised that actually X5 showed better adhesion to resin backing than X32 and X78 and X90. I was very surprised, but still, this is not a perfect adhesion, of course, but X5 with P4. X7R, it is important to say that, you see, this is the adhesion to resin backing directly, but the bond was somewhat poor. I was able to easily remove this piece. X7R with P4, X77 plus E90 with P4, S48 with P4. Okay, now I want to show you the video of the removal itself, how I was removing non-primed pieces. So here is the video. Ardex X90 unprimed. Ardex X78 unprimed. Ardex X32 unprimed. And here is a short conclusion. Follow manufacturer's recommendations. Do not ignore them. Everything that has happened with this test has only proven what the manufacturer has already said. Ardex does not recommend neither X32, neither X78, neither X5 or other mortars for the direct application to resin backing, regardless whether it's a large format tile, Dekton Slim, or resin-backed natural stone, or resin-backed porcelain mosaic tiles. I already saw resin-backed porcelain mosaic tiles, and I installed such mosaic tile last year in 2020. Even though Multimax Lite and S28 showed perfect adhesion to resin backing directly, it just proved how amazing, how good and great those mortars are. But still, I would not recommend you to use those mortars with the direct application to resin backing. Follow manufacturer's recommendations. What is the manufacturer's recommendations for resin-backed tiles? Ardex recommends using WA epoxy or Ardex X77, and I think it could be even X90 with Ardex E90 additive. And as you can see, it provides great bond with resin-backed tiles. But also in my test, I want to point out that even though at this point Ardex does not specifically recommend Ardex P4 as a primer suitable for resin-backed tiles, these results after a 7-day shear bond strength showed such a great adhesion. Sorry, this was not primed. This is primed P4. It shows great results of how cementitious mortar bonds to the back of the resin-backed tiles that is treated with Ardex P4. I know that Ardex also has a 2-component primer, Ardex P82, and that is of course a great primer, and I'm sure that that primer will provide or create even better adhesion, but this is Ardex P4. In my opinion, it can be safely used over such backing materials as Weddy board, maybe Schluter-Curdy board, and similar backing substrates. Okay, my friends, again, follow manufacturer's recommendations and you will be a successful installer that will provide great quality and great results with the materials that you use. Good luck.